you're hearing this stuff and you could be shocked. And yet, interestingly enough, the statistics show that it's not actually as uncommon as some people might think. If you could share just the fact of like how prevalent this is in the legal profession.
The ABA Betty Ford Hazelton study really was alcohol focused, right? And we know over 20% of from that study, and that was about 5 years ago, we know over 20% of licensed attorneys struggle with alcohol use disorder or is a quote unquote alcoholic. And we have to be careful with that because it happens on a scale, right? Some people may have low end alcohol use disorder, moderate alcohol use disorder, severe alcohol disorder, and we're labeling them all as alcoholics. So you have to be real careful about that. And it's prevalent. And we know that lawyers under 10 years of practice, it's over 33%, one in three. And anecdotally, and I say this anecdotally because I don't have the data behind me. Anecdotally, I know that it is a much different analysis from a AmLaw perspective than it is from a mid-size perspective, from a boutique perspective, from a solo practitioner perspective, because the resources and the problems are viewed differently, especially trial lawyers, right? In my anecdotal perspective, there is a much different view of drinking and the drinking culture in the trial lawyer profession than there is in big law. Because in big law, you have these people signing up for the wellness pledge, the ABA wellness pledge. They're putting all these structures in place. And so you have associates who work for the firm or who work for the law firm, and it's all trickling downward. And they don't want to get fired, right? Or they want to do this or they want to do that. Well, it's much different when you're working for yourself or you're the named partner and you just killed that jury trial, even though you're drinking every night and you brought in, you just got a $2 million verdict. I couldn't have a problem. How could I have a problem? I just brought in a $2 million verdict. That's how a lot of lawyers look at it. I remember I sat down with this lawyer of a litigation firm. He's a good friend of mine. I won't name him. We had lunch. And he said, Brian, and I'm telling him what I'm doing. And he said, Brian, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't care about studies. I don't care about, how much of the profession is suffering. If one of my lawyers has a drinking problem, I want him to get help. But if he's not going to take care of it, I'll fire him. We won't get into ADA issues here, but if he's not going to take care of it, I'll fire him and I'll get someone to replace him. I care about providing excellent service to my clients, whether it's in the courtroom or everywhere else. I care about maintaining my lifestyle. I care about, and he named 3 or 4 different things. None of them was the wellness of the profession. So I don't think that's an ununique view when you get into smaller firms and profit margins are smaller, when it's client by client. And so how do we reach that? How do we reach those people? And so it's a much different analysis, I think, when you drop into the trial lawyers. And I'm just speaking anecdotally.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to imagine there's so many barriers, obviously, to even seeking help. Whether it's your risk of being terminated, the financial implications, and you mentioned the social stigma. I think that is especially strong. I mean, just the incentive structure isn't right for seeking out help.
Well, and it's even stronger within the small firm and solo litigation field, because I mean, your livelihood depends on, often client by client, right? The big case, the big trucking case, the big this, especially in plaintiff's law, plaintiff's litigation. And you worry that anything that gets out, all of a sudden you're not getting those cases. And Joe's firm down the street is getting them, right? And you're worried if you go to the Lawyers Assistance Program here, it's called TLAP. I just rolled off the TLAP Advisory Committee, Texas Lawyers Assistance Program. Well, I'm not going there because they're an arm of the state bar. Well, they're not anywhere. They're not. And but it's going to get out. It's going to get out. I don't care what anyone says about being confidential. I remember I spoke to a Dallas bar group. This is a few years now, and I was speaking about TLAP. And after the meeting, a lawyer came up to me and said, a seasoned trial lawyer said, Brian, I know what you're saying, but if you go to them, it's going to get out. It's going to get to the state bar and you're screwed, right? You're going to lose your ticket. You're going to lose your ticket. And I said, how do you know that? How do you know that? Give me some evidence. You're a lawyer. Give me evidence. He said, well, another lawyer told me. Well, how did he know that? Well, I think a lawyer told him. So there you go. A seasoned trial lawyer is coming to me with a guy told a guy who told a guy. And And that stigma, that is the nature of the stigma because lawyers think, well, maybe Brian's right, but if he's wrong, I'm screwed. If he's wrong, I'm screwed.